Back in 2019, I launched a course which to date has made over £700,000 in sales, launched a mentorship offer which funds my entire lifestyle, and has helped me get recognition and be invited to speak at events around the UK and even abroad. What's cool, however, is that over £500,000 of those sales came completely organically. I didn't have a huge email list. In fact, the list was initially just 1,400 people. I didn't have a super fancy funnel or complicated tech, and if you know anything about me, you'll know that I don't cope well with anything at all technical. There weren't any convoluted upsells and downsells, and I sold a product that people genuinely wanted with zero hype and in a way that 100% aligned with my principles and values. In this video, I want to break down exactly how I did this, and I want to walk you through how you can replicate this structure for yourself. This strategy works whether you're selling a digital course like me, you're offering a service, something like coaching, or it can even work with physical products. Also, if you stick around to the end, I'll tell you how you can gain access to some of the exact emails I sent, which were a key part of the success of this launch. So make sure you hang tight till then. So first things first, let's talk about the most important aspect, which as always was the offer. So when I released the Freedom Kickstarter course, there were a lot of people teaching copywriting and I needed a way to stick out. So I sat down and I thought, right, what do I do that's a bit different to everyone else? And there are a few different things. I worked out roughly how much I was earning at the time based on the amount of work I was doing, and it translated to roughly about £350 per hour. So all of a sudden, there was one unique hook. It wasn't just learn copywriting, it wasn't have a six-figure career, it was earned £350 per hour. The other thing I've always been massive on is freedom. So I travel a lot, I'm always working from around the world, so I wanted the freedom aspect to come into that. I didn't want to sell a course that was designed to have people sitting at a laptop all day, even sitting in a co-working space or an office getting bored. I wanted people to have a skill that allowed them to travel the world and work from wherever they wanted and whenever they want as well. And then finally, I just started getting into doing equity deals. So if you're not sure, equity deals are basically where you get paid for the work you do, and then you earn an extra percentage based on how many sales your copy makes. So, taking those three things into account, that gave us a lot more uniqueness than simply saying, here's a course to learn copy. Piggybacking off that as well, the other thing we needed was some kind of unique mechanism. So if you know anything about offers, you'll know that having a UMS or a unique mechanism of the solution is very, very important. That's the kind of thing that makes your product stand out and shows people the how of what you do to get results. So for me, I thought again, what am I actually doing? I based this all around kind of how I'd had what I felt was a good degree of success up to that point, and came up with the 5 core pillars. So there are 5 different things people could do to write copy in terms of what the deliverables were going to be. Again, none of that was fabricated, none of it was made up. It was just looking at what I was doing and thinking, what's different here? What can I do to stand out from the market? I mean, I wasn't just saying the same thing as everybody else. Secondly, I built up a lot of reciprocity. So I'd had this email list for almost 18 months before I actually launched anything, which might seem mad. It's like, why were you emailing people regularly? And I was emailing about twice a week without actually selling anything. But to me, I always knew that I had something in the works that I wanted to sell. It just made sense to keep emailing people anyway. To make time to write 2 emails a week to that list on a Tuesday and on a Friday, where I just talked about what I was doing. So I would share stories from clients, I'd share wins and successes I had, I talked about my lifestyle, and it's really just designed to get people excited about the copywriting lifestyle. So that actually, when the time came, say, hey, I've got something for sale, people actually wanted it. They saw that I've been doing this, they saw that it was genuine, that it was authentic, and there was some pent-up desire there to actually buy. Now, I'm not saying that you have to run an email list for 18 months without making a single penny from it in order to do well with course sales. All I'm saying is that there's never a reason to not give value for a long time up front. Third thing I did was I built fairly publicly. So this kind of relates to the last point as well, when I talked about that I just basically said to the email list, here's what I'm doing this week, and here's this project I'm working on, and here's what I'm planning for the future. But a lot of business owners keep their cards very close to their chest, and then they suddenly hit their list with a launch or a promotion. Again, like with so much stuff, that can work, but in my mind, I would rather get people excited about something before I actually pull the trigger and release it. So if you can build kind of in public and let people know what you're doing, like show them behind the scenes, show them the product in development, that's always going to generate more excitement and more demand. The fourth thing I did kind of touches on something we've already spoken about. If you can add in a secondary benefit, that was the equity deals, right? That was the icing on the cake. Think of your offer like that, because if you have a secondary benefit that aligns with the primary benefit, that can be very, very powerful. So a really good example using the weight loss offer there would be something like if it could be, you will lose weight, but you will also repair your relationship with food. Now that immediately makes your offer a bit more unique and helps it stand out from the crowd. Again, that's still kind of vague and a bit generic, but what I want you to do is start thinking not just like what's the big main thing I offer, but what's the secondary benefit that comes with that? Because often that secondary benefit will be the thing that sells it. Because most marketers, most business owners, even most copywriters are thinking very much in their lane and focusing on one big benefit or big promise. If you can branch out slightly and add that secondary element, you've got something that's a little bit different. Next up, I made sure that I removed all the risks. So this is something that I don't always do, and I don't always advise every single client does. It's very offer dependent, but if you can have a guarantee, it massively helps. The one caveat to this is that if you have a guarantee, your product should back up what you say it does. So for me, I think on the first launch, I sold 71 people into the course, we had 1 refund. And that was because I over-delivered in the course, right? The whole thing with a guarantee is the idea being the extra sales you make from the peace of mind that having that guarantee gives people should massively outweigh any potential refunds that come in because people didn't feel like they got what they paid for. That's why I say, and this should really go without saying anyway, but make sure what you're selling is actually good. If it is, and if you believe in it, then you definitely want to remove that risk. The other thing I added in from a risk standpoint was I talked about helping people find work. And we did that in 2 ways. So first of all, this wasn't just a learn copy course, it was a learn copy and then go out there and get work. It wasn't like people had to do this course and then find another one that showed them how to find clients, how to sign clients, and how to deliver work. The Freedom Kickstarter course had everything. The other thing I said was that if people kept in touch with me, if they sent me their work, if they showed me that they'd implemented everything and knew what they were doing, I would actually send clients their way as well. So you can imagine being a prospect who's a bit nervous, having that double stack guarantee of, well, if I don't like this, if it doesn't work, I've got 30 days to get my money back, but also, okay, this guy's here, he's gonna help me actually get clients as well. That massively increases the trust and it removes people's perception of risk. 6th, I spoke about the results after the first enrollment. I was very clear that we had a set launch phase, and I believe for the first launch that was 10 days. What happened after those 10 days was it wasn't like I shut up about the course, I didn't go and market something else. What I did was I had a period where I specifically talked about results people on the course had got. So I wouldn't do this every email, but every now and again, I would talk about a student who was having some success. I'd do a case study, I'd do an interview, I'd reference them on social media, maybe they'd send me an email that I'd screenshot, they might send me a video, but I just made sure that the people who hadn't bought and had been thinking about it were in a nice way kind of kicking themselves for not taking the opportunity. And I made it very clear that, look, this is going to be open again in future. And what that was doing was it was kind of increasing that FOMO. It wasn't making anyone feel bad or stupid for not having bought, but it was showing them, look, you were on the fence before and you decided not to kind of come on board the course. But actually all these other people are already getting results. So if that's what you want, then next time we launch, you probably want to be there and you probably want to get in. And then finally, I had structured launch phases. So the first launch, I priced it at $997, which is pounds, which is, I think back then it was about $1,300. The second launch phase, which happened about 4 months after the first one, was £1,297. And then the third launch phase, which was again about another 4 months after that, was $1,497. Not massive price jumps, but kind of enough to make people think, I should probably get on board this before it jumps by £200 or £300. As with the other stuff I said before as well, I was very transparent about this. I told people the launch now is $997. In the future, it's probably gonna be $1,497, even $1,997. And actually today, that course sits there on the website at $1,997. Just to show that people who bought in earlier, you made the right decision by doing that, because now it's more expensive. And I would always say again that having something like that where you are transparent with your audience and you tell them what's going to happen after the launch, that's always going to help you. Where a lot of marketers fall down, both in my opinion from an ethics standpoint and a sales standpoint, certainly long-term sales, is just making up discounts and guarantees and bonuses and stuff for the sake of it and not following through. Or they say this product won't be available again and then it's available a week later. Or they say we're gonna have, this is the lowest price it'll ever be, and then again 2 weeks later it's back down to what it was before. People don't mind it when your prices are going up, provided you are transparent and honest about that, because if you lose that trust once, you've lost it forever. So yeah, have structured launch phases, just make sure you speak to that, and make sure people know what's going to happen if they don't buy. So there you have it. Everything I did to go from an email list making me no more than a few £100s or dollars each month to making well over £500,000 from this one course alone, and a business that regularly hits 30k to 60k months. As I always say, there's too much that goes into something like this launch to break down into one single video, but if you're interested in hearing more about how I built a sustainable, freedom-focused, multi-6-figure-a-year copywriting business, both through passive income from courses like this and from working with high-end clients, you might be interested in this video here. And as I said at the start, if you'd like to see some of the exact emails I sent to sell the Freedom Kickstarter course, just comment freedom below the video and I'll send them over.